Okay, key development for the 49ers. Some breaking news on Demarcus Robinson, the receiver whom they signed back in March. Robinson was with the Rams last season. While he was with the Rams, he was arrested for DUI. That was back in November. The DUI has now cleared the court system. Robinson pleaded no contest, misdemeanor DUI, 36 months of probation. This is according to TMZ. Robinson's attorney expects the probation to be cut down to 18 months because so far he has satisfied all the conditions of the probation. After the 18-month mark, Robinson's attorney, according to TMZ, expects the case to be expunged. What does this mean for the 49ers? What does this mean for Demarcus Robinson? Well, it means that the NFL might now move more quickly when it comes to potential discipline, and that probably will equal a suspension if that discipline does come from the NFL. So that's the question that the 49ers have been asking themselves. That's the question that the rest of the league will now be asking, because in cases like these, in situations like these, there has been a suspension levied in the past by the National Football League. We looked at a few examples. Josh Brent suspended for 10 games in 2014. However, that was a DUI incident that ended up causing death. He killed his teammate, Jerry Brown. Marcus May in 2023, the Saints safety received a 3-game suspension for violating the NFL substance abuse policy following a DUI charge. Oh, when you look at that one with Marcus May, 3 games, DUI, there was nobody hurt in that instance, so maybe it's more comparable to Demarcus Robinson's situation. Robinson reportedly was driving over 100 miles an hour. Police officers say that he displayed signs of intoxication during an ensuing traffic stop. Nobody was hurt in this situation. Obviously, that does change punishment, both in the legal system and when it comes to some of this NFL precedent. All I know right now is that the Rams were worried about a potential Demarcus Robinson suspension when they decided not to re-sign him for the 2025 season. So the 49ers signed him, and the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, when they were asked about this around the time of the NFL draft, this was at some point after free agency, they knew the possibility of a suspension here for Demarcus Robinson, and they decided to go ahead with the signing. Les Snead said in a press conference right around the time of free agency, so this was right before the 49ers did sign Demarcus Robinson to that 2-year deal, he said that play time could be impacted because of the legal situation, which obviously was a reference to a potential suspension from the NFL. So now that the legal process has been adjudicated, Robinson pled no contest to the misdemeanor DUI charge, 36 months of probation. His attorney hopes that gets cut down to 18 months and then is expunged. Now that that has all been taken care of, I think that the NFL, which operates separately from the legal system, might move in and determine whether or not it will be suspending Demarcus Robinson. If that does end up coming down and the 49ers do end up missing this 30-year-old signee for a game, 2 games, maybe 3 games, as I cited the case of Marcus May, the safety of the New Orleans Saints, who was suspended for 3 games back in 2023. If that does happen, it is really, really worth looking at the 49ers receiving depth, because Brandon Ayuk, the top receiver on this football team, he already will likely miss the start of this season. That has not been officially confirmed by the 49ers or by Ayuk's camp, but we can look at things with some logic in that situation. Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL and he tore his MCL, so it was not a clean tear. It took a little while for him to be able to undergo surgery. He didn't go under the knife until November. obviously was not a participant in the offseason program. And if things follow the standard ACL, MCL recovery timetable, he'll be on the physically unable to perform list at the start of the regular season and will miss at least 4 games. So if Demarcus Robinson misses time on top of that, well, then you can start to see why the 49ers would be in a little depth crunch at a wide receiver position that's already seen Deebo Samuel traded to the Washington Commanders over the course of this offseason. The depth outlook for the 49ers at receiver looks like this. I'm highlighting the receiver room for you so you guys can have a closer look. Obviously, Ayuk with the injury shading there. Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson. He is shaded in teal because he's a free agent whom the 49ers added this offseason. Jordan Watkins shaded in green as a rookie, and Jacob Cowing. We've talked so much about him. He's added some muscle over the course of this offseason. Big-time opportunity coming up for Jacob Cowing, but he's going to be competing directly with the rookie Jordan Watkins, the 4th-round pick out of Ole Miss. Both smaller speedsters who will be looking to carve out a niche in this 49ers offense. Now, if you're missing both Ayuk and Robinson for some point at the start of the season, well, Juwan Jennings has proven that he can step up and fill the X receiver role. Remember that Ayuk is a standard X, bona fide X. He was someone who the 49ers leaned on heavily back in 2023. But when he went down in 2024 with the ACL and the MCL tears, Juwan Jennings is the receiver who slid into that X receiver role. He filled in for Deebo Samuel as the Z against the Rams. Then he filled in for Brandon Ayuk as the X over the back half of the season, and he did it well. So I think that you would see Juwan Jennings play that X position for the 49ers. Demarcus Robinson played some X for the Rams last season, but I think that Jennings would be best suited for that, especially if Demarcus Robinson also is unavailable. But you can see here, this is why there'd be tremendous pressure on Ricky Pearsall and somebody like Jacob Cowing or Jordan Watkins to truly step up, because it wouldn't just be about Juwan Jennings trying to fill in at that X role. It would be about the domino effect further down the pipeline of the 49ers receiver room. That's why the 49ers really need Ricky Pearsall to continue the good stuff that they saw at the end of last season, the 14 catches over the final 2 games. Ricky's going to be in a prime time spot. The spotlight's going to be on him for the 49ers, regardless of whether or not Demarcus Robinson's suspended. They're still going to need Ricky to be a big-time receiver for them coming off that first-round draft selection in 2024. But if Demarcus Robinson is suspended, well, then, yeah, Ricky Pearsall, it's going to be go time from week 1, from the very get-go. It's going to be ready, set, go for Ricky Pearsall. And then you're going to look at that third receiver spot with somebody like the rookie Jordan Watkins or Jacob Cowing. And you're going to say, if there's no Brandon Ayuk and there is no Demarcus Robinson, well, one of those 2 guys really better step up so the 49ers have their speed threat to stretch the field. Remember, this team ranked dead last in average separation at the time of catch or incompletion last year. It was a massive problem for the 49ers. A lot of it rooted, yes, in Christian McCaffrey not being available. A lot of it rooted in Brandon Ayuk missing most of the season, not being great when he was out there for the 49ers. But it underscores the importance of winning at wide receiver. Every team needs winners at that wide receiver position. So depth is tremendously important there because you're going to have injuries. You're going to have guys unavailable. The 49ers signed Demarcus Robinson knowing that he might be unavailable for a couple games, maybe 3 games at the start of this season. Now the path for NFL discipline is clear with the court case having been adjudicated. Well, all that the 49ers knew might be a possibility. If the hammer does come down on a suspension right now, they have better see that depth in the receiving room take its position and pick up the slack that's going to be needed to be picked up, because we saw how ugly it could get last season when the 49ers had all those injuries in the receiving room and the depth wasn't quite good enough to pick up the slack. Now, there's more in the receiving room beyond the guys that I project to make the 53-man roster. Of course, if Robinson is suspended, he's not going to be counting a roster spot. If Brandon Ayuk is on PUP, he's not going to be counting a 53-man roster spot. They've typically carried 6 in the past. That means they can draw from guys on this side of the dividing line to at least temporarily fill out the roster if that is indeed the assignment for the 49ers. That's where Tariq Owens, T.O.'s son, comes in. He's got a lot to prove here in training camp. Can he show that he's made a massive second-year jump? He was improving rapidly over the course of camp last season. That's where Isaiah Nair is going to have a chance, perhaps the most gifted athlete in the entire 2025 draft class, but somebody who needs to show more consistency, needs to show good attitude. He was impressive physically when we saw him over the course of the offseason program, but Tariq Owens is impressive physically too. One of those two guys may have a real shot at grabbing a role, especially if there is slack to be picked up. Isaiah Hodgins, Russell Gage, Malik Knowles, and Junior Bergen, the 7th-round pick, round out the 49ers receiving room, although I will say Bergen is more of a contender for a special teams job. Prolific punt returner, maybe even kick returner at this level. Maybe the 49ers carry an extra receiver on the 53 or on the practice squad to fulfill some of those special teams needs. So those of you just joining, wide receiver Demarcus Robinson, who was arrested for DUI back in November after a Rams game. I think it was after the Rams lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. Reportedly was caught going over 100 miles an hour on the freeway before he was arrested. He has pleaded no contest to that DUI. This is according to TMZ. The sentence is 36 months of probation for Demarcus Robinson. His contract with the Rams expired at the end of last season. The 49ers, needing to add another receiver, signed Demarcus Robinson, knowing that an NFL suspension was possible. However, at the time of the signing, the actual legal process had not yet been complete with Demarcus Robinson, and the NFL typically likes to wait until the legal process outside of their purview runs its course. Well, 36 months probation, no jail time in this case. This could be expunged after 18 months, according to Robinson's attorney. She provided a couple more details, which I can share with you. He's actually completed some or most of the requirements already imposed by the court as part of the probation. And the reason that I list all of this stuff is because the NFL, which operates its own investigation, is going to take some of this into account. The NFL tries to take absolutely everything into account. So the NFL doesn't have to play by some hard and fast rules of the legal system. In fact, one could argue that sometimes the NFL's punishments and suspensions in these cases might seem awfully arbitrary compared to the legal system. But that just underscores that every single piece of data could be very, very important in the NFL's determination of whether or not Demarcus Robinson is suspended. So I said 36 months of probation and also a $390 fine, according to court records. As part of the deal with prosecutors, Demarcus Robinson must also complete several programs, including a Mothers Against Drunk Driving victim impact program. That is all from TMZ. The quote from Robinson's attorney is, quote, Mr. Robinson has taken this process extremely seriously by already completing most of the terms of his probation. We expect that his probation will terminate early at the 18-month mark, after which his case will be expunged. However, I have already cited DUI arrests in the past that have led to suspensions in the NFL, which are levied by the league. So the question now is, will the NFL suspend Demarcus Robinson? Because we do know that the Rams thought a suspension was possible. Rams GM Les Snead said back in March that Robinson has some things to, quote unquote, work through legally this offseason, which could, quote, prevent playtime in the future. So Robinson wasn't suspended in 2024, but the case hadn't been adjudicated yet. Les Snead was at least partially concerned that Demarcus Robinson might be suspended in the future after the case was adjudicated, and it has now been adjudicated, and we'll find out if the now 49ers receiver is indeed suspended moving forward. And we'll see if San Francisco can successfully pick up the slack moving into the 2025 season. Now, even if he is suspended, it wouldn't take Robinson away from training camp. We would see him practice, and we saw him on the practice. He looked good for the 49ers. I thought that he had a good rapport with Brock Purdy over the course of spring. We would still see him at training camp practice. The suspension, if it does happen, wouldn't kick in until week 1 of the 2025 NFL regular season, if the NFL does reach its decision on a suspension by then. Remember, the league can operate at its own schedule here too. The arbitrary nature of things also extends down to timing of a potential suspension. That could be frustrating for NFL teams, but that's just the way that it works with NFL personal conduct policy discipline. Demarcus Robinson is coming off of a career year, 505 receiving yards for the Rams last season, caught the ball 31 times, 7 touchdowns, including a game winner in overtime, a bomb from Matthew Stafford to defeat the Seattle Seahawks. So even at age 30, Demarcus Robinson coming off of his best season, dependable receiver. Again, put on the tape. He played some X for the Rams last year, and I think that's significant for a 49ers team that might be missing Brandon Ayuk for at least a chunk of the 2025 season. Robinson entered the league with the Chiefs, played there from 2016 to 2021. With Kansas City, had nearly 1,700 receiving yards, obviously worked with Patrick Mahomes, won a Super Bowl for the Chiefs, playing against the 49ers in that 2019 season. 2022 season with Baltimore, and then the 2 seasons with the Rams. And the Rams really liked him as a receiver out on that field. Like I said, he was productive for the Rams over those 2 years. 57 catches, 876 yards. The 49ers liked the tape of Demarcus Robinson and Sean McVay's system, so they decided to sign him as somebody who could raise the floor of that receiving room, but he might miss some time at the start of 2025. So that's why that 49ers wide receiver depth outlook is so important. Probation for the November DUI arrest for Demarcus Robinson. It is literally 2:08 a.m. here in Prague. I am in Europe, 9 hours ahead of you, those of you on the West Coast. So I hope you appreciate the dedication. Don't only hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell. There's nobody else waking up at 2 a.m. to make a video about Demarcus Robinson's potential suspension. But when we have news, we have news. So hit the little notification bell. As of right now, Mike told me that we only have like 5% of our subscribers with a notification bell on. You need to hit that bell so you know whenever I come live, whenever a video is pushed. We have a video already out from earlier today on Michael Williams and the 49ers potentially signing Asante Samuel Jr. So that notification bell rate needs to be at like 20 or 30%. It needs to be much higher. Hit the notification bell right now. Hit the like button. And if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. More 2 a.m. updates coming soon. I'm getting into regular season mode. Got to knock off the rust. We got to work into regular season mode. And we had some news today to do just that. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Do your homework. Do what you're supposed to do. We'll talk to you very soon.